with the no bullshit approach to health and wellness. So why the no bullshit approach? Well, essentially, I've been there, done it, got the t-shirt. I am not like the vast majority of health coaches or nutritionists, whatever label people want to give themselves. There's lots of labels we give ourselves. Where they're quoting and guiding you from textbook. Don't get me wrong. I everything I quote is based on facts. Everything is based on facts. But the big difference is that everything I teach people is principles that I have followed myself to be able to turn my own health around. I was diagnosed with the advanced stages of Crohn's disease. Many years ago now. And for years I battled endlessly. I mean, even with the knowledge, because at that time, even when I was diagnosed, I was still, I still practiced, had a background in nutrition. Not to the level that I do today, but I still had a nutritional background. And on face value, my diet and my lifestyle was healthy. I had a few indiscrepancies, but on face value, I lived a healthy lifestyle and a healthy diet. And I did. Now, when I was diagnosed, I made some very significant changes to my lifestyle specifically. Because obviously I knew that the impact certain things would have had on the inflammation in the gut, and obviously that the condition that I have is fundamentally inflammation in the GI and the intestines, caused by the immune system attacking it. So the last thing I wanted to do was sort of have any sort of habit, any sort of lifestyle or dietary habits that I hadn't addressed. Compounding that problem. So I addressed those. Yes, I was still deteriorating quite rapidly. At the time, I had two clinics. I had one in Manchester and I had one in London. I was travelling weekly to my London clinic, which I had girls that ran it for me. But it still required me to go there on a weekly basis, to check up on things, and what have you. And obviously I had, all the admin and the emails and everything that went along with the two clinics. When I left, the clinic environment in Manchester. Which I fundamentally did on a weekend, and I did in an evening when I got back from seeing clients. And when I was faced with the drugs not working, and I was dramatically deteriorating rapidly. I'd gone from having a flare every 12 to 18 months to having a flare every I was on and off steroids every 4 months. So things have got pretty bad, and all the drugs that were open to me, now was just one that's kind of increased my risk further of other illnesses. So, it wasn't a decision I was willing to take lightly, particularly of the nature of immune suppressants, suppressing the immune system anyway. So when I got so poorly in the end, I was housebound for 2 months. I probably made it worse because of the hours that I was doing. I mean, I was doing 12-hour days and then coming home and doing admin, travelling to London every week, there and back in a day. It's compounded with all those with the condition itself. It was no wonder that I couldn't get a grip of it. I couldn't get a grip of this condition because my lifestyle, you know, there was a very, very big fundamental factor of my lifestyle that was hindering my body from doing that, and that was me burning the candle at both ends. You know, if I'd not addressed all the other areas of my diet and my lifestyle, I would probably have hit that point a lot sooner. Anyway, I say I was housebound for 2 months, and even then, you know, I got to the point where I thought, I actually need to be going. I knew the business was. I mean, the Manchester clinic had closed because it was dependent on me to attend to clients. I had to close the business. So clients went elsewhere, so I lost business. Yes, I still had the girls running the business in London, but because I wasn't on the ball with it, that they were taking advantage. And you know, and if you've got a business yourself and you employ staff, you know the score, you know how it works. And I knew the rug was being pulled from underneath me. So I, against everybody's advice, my own consultant's advice, my dad's advice, my dad's a doctor in nutritional science, I went to London, and because I was adamant that no, I've got to go and sort everything out, I've got to go and I was literally clinging hold of this business for dear life, even though my health needs the attention. You know, and I went to London and I collapsed in the middle of Harley Street. I'll never forget it. I collapsed in the middle of Harley Street. I was with my mum. My dad insisted upon my mum meeting me in London because at the time they lived in Bedford. And I remember saying to her, "Mum, I feel so weak." And she rang my dad, and my dad said, "Look, you know, she won't listen to me. Take her to go and there was a colleague of my dad's that sort of had an office very close by, and my mum took me along to see him, and he sat me down and he said, 'Look, Kate, you know, it doesn't matter what I tell you or what your dad tells you. You have to,' he says, you already have a fact, you already know more than most doing what you do, but you need to understand exactly what makes the body tick. And until you understand exactly what makes the body tick, you're going to keep on this never-ending merry-go-round that you're on, and you're never, ever, ever going to break through.' And I walked away from that conversation thinking, what on earth is he flipping talking about? I don't know. I'm like, I'm flipping as confused as I'm no more clearer than I was when I walked in. And when I sat down and I thought about it, you know, I fell into the trap that the vast majority of people who are wanting to achieve any goal within their health, whether that be whether you want to achieve a drop a few inches, or whether you want to improve your energy levels, or whether you want to whether you have an existing health condition yourself and you want to improve the recovery process of it. You will have probably engaged in lots and lots of things that said, oh, this can do this and this can do that and that can do the other. And you'll have engaged in all of these things, and you'll have stuck it out for, I don't know, a month, 2 months, maybe 3 months. And if you hadn't seen the results that you had told yourself that you should expect in a certain time frame, you'll have quit. And if you either quit because you may have felt worse. Now, that's the reason for feeling worse. Your body can go through what's called a healing crisis. I'm not going to go through that in this video at all because it's going to just confuse you. But there's a reason for you feeling worse, and the body sometimes has to go through that process. And you may have come to the conclusion, well, it's not working, or it's not worth the effort, or to make me feel worse, I'm going to stop, or it has its limitations. And that's exactly what I used to tell myself. So although, there's kind of a jigsaw puzzle that you need to complete to achieve your end result that you're wanting in your health. And that is, you need to relieve the workload on the body. You need to get the body working smarter. And you do that by delivering the right nutritional properties into the bloodstream that re-stimulates certain functions back up in the body. And not all vitamins, minerals, functional foods, not all of them do those things. Yes, they will have certain health benefits when they are a certain quality, but not all of them will deliver what I'm saying you need to achieve. And don't get me wrong, the product doesn't do it. It re-stimulates certain functions up in the body for your body to do it. So no product ever does anything. It re-stimulates certain functions up in the body, and it's your body that does it ultimately. But then what you also have to do is you also need to give your body that time to address the issue. Now, what you've got to also bear in mind is your body's gone through years and years and years of abuse from us, through various diet and lifestyle factors from as far back as childhood. And we're expecting the body to rectify all that damage that's been caused over years and years and years overnight, and it isn't going to happen. So how quickly we achieve results is dependent on how much the body has to rectify, and the body can only start rectifying once we apply certain principles to our diet and our lifestyle, and we deliver the right tools for the body to call upon. And that's why I can relate to people very, very easily, because I've been there, done it, got the t-shirt, and I know that if I hadn't have had that tough love, I needed tough love. I walked away from that conversation and I knew that my business was going to the pan. It was going down the toilet. There was no avoiding it. I had to face facts. I was going to lose the business. Now, if I had clung for dear life any longer, I'd have lost everything. And then my health would have been compromised even more, because I would have had no money. So I chose to walk away from the business 100% that day. And the reason, and what I did was, I decided to extend my knowledge further. Now, I did that partly, obviously, through my dad, but there was only so much my dad could help me, because he was so close to my problem, and you know what parent relationships are like anyway. You don't like to hear things from your parents, really, do you? So I knew that the best way for me to get to the point that I needed to be was to get that information to get that tough love from somebody completely emotionally separated from my problem, that wasn't emotionally attached to me. And that's what I did, so I extended my knowledge further. I really got to grips with understanding exactly what made the body tick. And I got to work. And I started working on me. And by working on me, I ended up drug and symptom free, which I have been for the last 8-9 years. Now I will throw a caveat in there. I did have one little wobble about 12 months ago. Now the reason, it was a very good reason why I had that wobble though. When I had my daughter, for the first 6 months she was an absolute fabulous sleeper. Well, I think she must have been, she was about maybe 8 months old. Anyway, for 12 months, yeah, would have been about 12, for 12 months, I barely had any sleep. She was waking up every 2 hours. So by the time when she got back off to sleep, and then I sort of got back into bed and tried to get back off to sleep, and as soon as I got back off to sleep, she was waking up again. So I was never actually getting into what's referred to as REM sleep. And I was very stressed because my mum was being treated for cancer at the time, you know, and I lost my mum shortly after that as well, and you know, it took its toll on me massively. So between the stress levels and the lack of sleep, you know, although all my other ducks were in a row, my body wasn't healing properly. So so when we sleep, by releasing our IGF-1, that is our part of our cell regeneration process. So I suppose that's part of one of the ingredients, the tools the body uses to keep us fit and healthy. But the body produces that naturally. There's nothing we can do really. There's very little we can do really to stimulate that production back up again. We need that REM sleep for the body to produce that hormone. The lack of it meant I wasn't healing properly. So you can see where just, you know, one major element within that whole jigsaw puzzle being out of kilter can have a fundamental influence on your overall health. Now again, going back to business, while I was pregnant, because again, you know, I mean, although I'd started the business back up again, I closed the clinic with the funnily enough, it all ties to kind of tied in. I'd already planned that I was going to do an online program so I could help more people, and obviously relieve the time that I was working in you know, physically working. So again, you know, it was thinking about, you know, my overall well-being. And you know, while I was pregnant, I felt pregnant as well. Literally as I closed the clinic, so it kind of tied it. So timing was great. And I worked on my content, all my content for my program that I have today. I did nothing with it until really now. My daughter's nearly 3, and I'm really just doing nothing with it until now. And say I just physically couldn't, because I was so unwell again, because, you know, when they really, I joke about this, you know, having children, parenting should come with a health warning. And it's true, it should. You know, but you know, I was so unwell, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't mentally focus or anything. You know, I was so exhausted. And of course, the compounded with the flare and everything, it's taken me really until now to get to a point where I can start to do something. You know, so once you get so far down with your health, it's very hard to get back up again. You know, so, you know, from an entrepreneurial point of view, you know, I am living, breathing proof as to how your health can really, really affect the day-to-day running of a business. You know, I've been there. I've been there, done it, got the t-shirt. You know, so many people live in denial. They'll. I mean, I see so many people in business presenting with sabotaging behaviours that are just normal everyday life to them. And those sabotaging behaviours aren't just compromising their health, their life, their family, but they're compromising their business. Because at the end of the day, if you compromise your business, and you don't have a means of earning money, then that's going to compromise the family. And if your health is compromised, then you can't obviously be the parent that you want to be either. So there's so many areas of your life that is solely dependent on your health. Your health is your number one best asset. And it's the area that the vast majority of us pay the least amount of attention to. So that's why I target entrepreneurs as a target audience now, because I understand, I can relate to the value of them having a healthy mind, having a healthy body, or those two things are absolutely vital to achieving your business goals and achieving your life goals. We're all in business to achieve our life goals. Let's not throw any punches here. We're all in business because we have goals, we have dreams, we have aspirations, and we're not going to achieve them by being in a 9-to-5 job. Being a 9-to-5 job's easy. If we get sick, we get sick pay. Don't matter really, does it? Yes, it matters, but it doesn't matter quite so much, because even if you get ill and you've got a 9-to-5 job, it still affects your family, because you still can't be the parent that you want to be. Although yes, you will still have an income coming in, because by law that your employer has to provide you with sick pay. So I suppose a lot of emphasis is kind of taken off the importance of maintaining your health when you work for somebody. But when you've got a business, you don't get sick. We don't get sick pay. So if we're sick, we can't run our business properly. We can't perform properly, and ultimately we pay the price for that. Now let's just say you employ staff. Now again, everybody has bad diet and lifestyle choices, but like I said to you, if you employ staff, your employees won't necessarily understand the importance. They won't have that. I suppose the consequences aren't quite as great for them, because they say they still get that paycheck, even if they're sick, even if they're at home. They could be ring sick and lie, and they'll still get paid. So there's kind of less importance there for them to make a change and ring fence their income, their livelihood. But at the end of the day, they also have family. Well, some of them may still have families. So from that perspective, they still have a responsibility to, look after their children's health and, make sure that they are fit and healthy to be able to keep up with their children and do things with them, and enjoy life with them. So from that perspective, it's important to encourage them from that perspective. But from your perspective as an employer, you see, again, I've employed staff. I've not employed a lot of staff, but I've still employed staff. And my husband's worked in the corporate arena for many, many years, for all his career, and for all the time I've known him. There's a few things that he comes home and he says, all the time that, people will come into work sick. Well, if people are coming into work sick, they're not being productive. That is costing the business money. If they're not being productive, they are costing the business money. And then not only that, when they're coming in, spreading the germs, you've got not one person sick, you've got 10 people sick. And those 10 people are unproductive people. And that's just them coming in sick with flu, cold and flu-like symptoms, or a virus of some kind. Or maybe they're just, they're not being productive because they're feeling tired and lethargic. Now, again, that could be down to their diet and their lifestyle. Everything revolves around their diet and their lifestyle, and them not, and their body not having the tools to properly address problems. So it really is in an employer's best interest to, from an employee care perspective, to help their members of their team to address those problems and identify those problems, because a lot of people don't think their lifestyle and their diet is a major problem. And this is why education is so important. Education is absolutely vital, because unless somebody understands why something's bad for them. I mean, let me give you an example. Everybody knows alcohol's not good for them. Everybody knows smoking's not good for them. But unless they know why and what impact it has negatively on the body, and how that negative affects our overall health, that's the only way you're going to understand the importance of addressing that problem. And that goes for your diet aspects, that goes for lifestyle aspects. Education is absolutely key, absolutely vital. So, it really is in the business's best interest too, because at the end of the day, a business can only operate, is only as good as its workforce. If its workforce is not operating to its full potential, well, they are a liability to the business. And that is it, the bottom line. They are a liability to the business. If they're costing the business money, they're a liability. So you have to find ways to make your workforce more productive. And in the long term, what it'll mean is it'll hopefully reduce down the time that they are off sick, and that is something that costs companies a small fortune. Not only do you have the headache of trying to get replacement staff in, especially if they're on long-term sick, or getting people to cover their work while they're on short-term sick, and it's a headache. It is a headache, and it's stressful. So it's other people's choices is actually having. You're paying the price as a business owner. You're paying the price for other people's bad choices in life, essentially, in a nutshell. And that's a bitter pill to swallow. Not only is it a flipping headache that you're having to, run around like a headless chicken trying to, pick up the pieces when somebody's off sick, but knowing that it's as a result of, 99.9% of the time, it's as a result of poor people's poor habits. It's a bitter pill. It's a bitter pill to swallow. But people aren't going to change unless they are spoon-fed, unfortunately. So it really is in a business's best interest to take a spoon-feeding approach to their workforce, to better educate them on how they can make changes to their diet and their lifestyle, to protect the business. Of course, there's an employee care perspective there as well, but fundamentally, a business's main concern is their bottom line, and it is really, really important. So that's why I target those areas, because I see I can relate to the pain as business owners, the impact poor health can have on a business. from both perspectives. And also having obviously been in the profession that I'm in, and having been there, done it, got the t-shirt, I see so many traits in business owners that it just goes hand in hand with being in business, and it's something that you really have to keep a grip of. Otherwise, it can really get a grip of you and start compromising your health. And when it starts compromising your health, all the hard work that you're putting into your business is just completely all in vain. Now, these principles, they don't just apply to, whether you want to, work on a preventative level. Let's say you've got, some small little health niggles that you just want to address, or whether you've got a big problem, a big health problem like I had, that you need to address. The fundamental basics are the same. There are minor sort of tweaks to that basic formula, dependent on somebody's personal health circumstances, and dependent on their goal, and dependent on their activity levels. There's a few things that can just sort of tweak certain parts of the basic formula, but the basic formula is the same irregardless of what your goal is, your age, your sex. The basic formula is the same, just minor tweaks. I say, if you get this formula right, it can change your life, as it has changed mine. And I mean, to give you another example, another personal example, my mum, as I mentioned just a little bit earlier on, that I lost my mum 2 years ago to cancer. No, actually, I will correct myself there. I didn't lose her to cancer. My mum battled 2 very aggressive cancers for 14 years. And if it hadn't been down to the principles that I teach and follow myself today, that she wouldn't have lasted as long as she did. And that I can put hand on heart and categorically say. In fact, they aren't just my words; they are the words of her consultant. My mum was the topic of conversation in many of his board meetings, and he was the chairman of the Genesis charity, breast cancer charity in Manchester. And he used to say, he used to have many a conversation in his board meetings about my mum because of how she just used to she defied the odds for so many years. But even towards the end, in our last diagnosis, I mean, we only found out that my mum's breast cancer, that she kept having, she had breast cancer, on and off for a number of years. But it was only really once I was 5 months pregnant that we knew it was HER2 positive breast cancer, which was a different ballgame entirely, that she was dealing with, because it meant that it was actually, it was even more dependent on the immune system doing its job, because it had to go into this battle of wills, so to speak, with these HER2 receptors that kept latching onto these cancer cells and instructing them to stay alive. So essentially, you've got the immune system doing its job and saying, telling the cancer cell, no, you need to die. And you've got these HER2 receptors that are latching on and contradicting everything the immune system is telling these cancer cells to do, and saying, no, you need to stay alive, and you need to multiply, and you need to grow at a rapid rate of knots. And it's, it's like, well, which one wins, And you just got to hope and pray that the immune system wins. And the immune system can only win if it's in a fit state to do so. Thankfully, and I say, my mum also had another cancer that she was dealing with. She had anorectal cancer, which was HPV driven by the HPV virus. And again, that's solely dependent on the immune system. So the immune system had a hell of a job to do, a hell of a job on its hands. It had two major influences there that it had to contain, that it had to keep a lid on. One job's big enough for any immune system, but two, that was a challenge, and her immune system faced that challenge head on and won for well over 15 years. And as I say, in this, when she was diagnosed with, when they found out it was HER2 positive, it was only because of the rapid rate that this breast cancer had gone from in remission to in the lymph nodes, in the lungs. It was in the liver, it was in the lungs, it was in the lymph nodes, and they'd given her months to live, literally given her months to live. They put her on the treatment program that they put her on purely and simply just to extend her life expectancy so that she could see her granddaughter born. And that was it in a nutshell. Her consultant was very cagey as to how he approached that with her, knowing that if she thought that she was ultimately going to die, shortly after her granddaughter was born, my daughter, he knew that there was a chance that she wouldn't have had the treatment, particularly after everything she'd gone through, all the battles, all the years of battling she'd gone through with one cancer or another. He knew that she was battle weary. So he was very cagey as to what he said. And I rung him and I said, look, cards on the table, what are we playing with here? And he said, look, she's defied all the odds for years, honestly. She's done great. She's done better than anybody could ever even imagined. But he says this time, she won't win this battle. It's gone way too far. Even for the immune system to pull this around. But you see, I was blessed with the gift of knowledge. I knew essentially the treatment program that she was on had a less than 5% success rate. So what was the difference between the people who achieved clearance and the people who didn't? Quite simply, the immune system did something different. And it's funny actually, because my dad just really to test, because even oncologists and consultants, they don't have unless they study immunology, they don't have an in-depth knowledge as to how the immune system really functions. And we knew that my mum's oncologist did get involved in some immunotherapy trials. And I remember my dad, and I asked him afterward why he asked her this question. He said, just really to test her, really, and see what her answer would be. And he asked her, what was the difference between the less than 5% that got clearance and the other percent, the vast majority of people? And her answer was, because the immune system did something different. And that is it in a nutshell. Because the immune system did something different. Okay, and that's what you need to take away from this video, is the immune system is dependent on, you rely on your immune system to address any illness. And our immune system is only as good as we treat it. It's only as good as the conditions it has to work with. And the only person that can improve those conditions is us, But anyway, to cut a long story short, my mum did get clearance. 6 months after she finished her chemotherapy treatment, she continued, the cancer cells continued to reduce down. Every time she got a full body scan, the cancer cells were less. And she ultimately ended up with no measurable cancer cells in the body that they could pick up from the full body scan. And that was somebody who wasn't going to live, well, was given months to live, essentially. So why did we lose my mum? We lost my mum to the negative effects of the treatment. One of the antibody treatments she was given, which was to control the expression of HER2, which meant by controlling the expression of HER2, it meant that it was reducing the amount of these receptors that were latching onto the cancer cells and making the immune system's job harder, essentially. One of the side effects of that is it weakens the heart and it weakens the lungs. And because these issues weren't properly monitored by the hospital, my mum's heart was damaged, and they identified my mum's heart was damaged actually 4 days before she died. The plan was to stop the treatment and get her on some heart meds, allow the heart time to recover before they put her back on the Herceptin to help control the expression of this HER2 again. But we didn't get that far, unfortunately. And our heart just stopped suddenly with what they believe was a blood clot. So, yeah. Drugs have the place. I'm not a massive advocate of drugs in the main, which is why I'm so passionate about, encouraging people to work on a preventative level, because all drugs come at a price. All of them have their consequences. Drugs are only there to buy your body time. That's all they're there to do. They're either there to buy your body time or to trick the body into thinking a symptom is no longer present, so that the body can has less things to focus on, I suppose, and can focus on the main root cause. That's what drugs are designed for. Drugs are never designed to cure you. Drugs can't cure you. The only thing that can cure you is your own body. That's it. So that's why I'm so passionate about, encouraging more people to work on a preventative level, so that they don't get into that position where, they're clawing around for, desperately for a miracle. Yes, you can turn it around. I've proved it myself. I've proved it with my mum. I've proved it with other people. Yes, you can turn it around, but the job is harder. The task is harder. And even then, can I guarantee you, if you get all your ducks in a row, can I guarantee myself that I will not get ill? No. HER2 positive breast cancer is a genetical flaw. I could have it. I have to go annually for breast screenings to work on that, proactive approach to, getting diagnosed early if I was to ever have that problem. But I know that my diet and my lifestyle, the conditions I create for my body, means that if I ever was in that position, my body is in the best state possible to be able to deal with it. And that's the best you can do. Living your life just how you want to live it and thinking, somebody else is going to pick up the pieces, is not the way to live your life. It's not a very responsible way to live your life. Because at the end of the day, nobody can pick up the pieces for you. They can give you a tool to buy you time, but that's all they can do. And that tool comes at a price. That's one thing you've got to always remember. It comes at a price. So it really is very, very much in your own hands. Prevention is 100% in your hands, and recovery, some may say 50-50. I would say I would say probably, I would say probably 75-25. I would say probably 75% of that responsibility of recovery is in our own hands, and 25% is with the medical profession. Um, so yeah, so I hope I've kind of demonstrated to you the true importance of protecting your health, to not just protect your life in general, but to protect everything that you're working for. To protect your business, to protect everything, your goals and your dreams and your aspirations. Your health is your number one best asset. And say if you employ staff, well, it's down to you to try and encourage people, your employees, to take a more proactive approach to the way they view their own health, because ultimately you're going to pay the price as well as them if their health is compromised. So yes, if you would like to book a chat with me, book a call with me, to see how I can help you, whether that be personally, or whether that be within the business, please do drop me a message, and we'll organise a call, and see where we can go from there. So on that note, I'm going to sign off, because this has been quite a long video. As I do get very passionate about this subject, and I shall speak to you soon.